Welcome to the Let's Go Recovery podcast, where we investigate sobriety and beyond that, explore solutions to help us heal at the core, where the root of our problems like addiction or alcoholism begin. We hope you hear something in today's podcast that ignites a change in your life.
My pleasure to have in studio today a friend. He's the founder of 33 Degrees Recovery, but also he's an advocate and philosopher in the recovery community here in Phoenix. I'm going to have you welcome to the show, my friend Eric Beer. Eric,
Tracy.
Those are some pretty big titles, man. Like,
yeah.
How do I get you into the studio, man?
Honestly, Tracy, first off, thank you so much for having me. I consider myself to be a recovery philosopher. First and foremost, obviously, addicts and alcoholics, we like to juggle everything. So if you got a title, I can't do one of anything. I'll do more. If we can come up with more, I'll do more of them.
Oh, that's funny.
But thank you again, man. It's a true pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, I love the idea. We've run into each other in several occasions.
Yeah.
You work a hands-on in recovery right now. I know you're doing that, and I want to talk about that.
Yes.
But the idea of being an advocate for recovery, when we started talking about that, that's a huge statement that means something more than just a guy that's like, hey, I'm getting sober and fixing my family. Advocate says, man, I'm working at it. Tell me a little bit about that journey for you and how you get to become like an advocate in the recovery community.
Sure. I mean, first and foremost, and this is something that I know you and me both agree with, and you're going to hear me say this a lot, that to me, the true opposite of addiction is connection. And a big part of my journey, my story, is the lack of connection, that lack of purpose, that lack of feeling comfort in my own skin. I believe that a lot of us suffer from a lot of different issues, which makes us reach for drugs and alcohol. And being a recovery advocate, to me, is about education. It's about going out there and sharing the stories, right? Sharing the experience, connecting with people that maybe don't know what connection feels like. It's finding that comfort in our own skin and then sharing that with other people. Because to me, addiction has a lot to do with a purpose. And I truly believe that I studied the darkness to be the light for other people. And that light, to me, has to shine somehow, right? And whether that's the forum of just you and me talking, whether that's going into group homes or, educating people that maybe that don't suffer from, substance use disorder. Education is a big part of my advocacy. There's such a stigma on addiction, as we both know, and I think that stigma comes from a lack of education. A lack of understanding that most people don't know what it's like to go through what you and me have gone through. Sure. Most people don't know what it's like to come out the other side. Hope and faith, man. I mean, if I didn't have hope and faith at some point on my journey, I wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Yeah, you hit on so much good stuff, man. I'm excited for today's episode because you carry that energy that, of course, I love, but it's that idea of action.
Yes.
Like you're putting into action the things that you've experienced, which is important. You talked about group homes, and obviously I know some of what you do, but I want to share that we're talking about taking men and women, and maybe in your case, mainly men, but on a journey, but you're starting at the group home level, like
Correct.
Going in and there get some time sober. Tell the audience a little bit about what that looks like for you right now in your
Yeah, sure. I mean, okay, the way that I look at it, right, is that there's three major things that most addicts and alcoholics have a challenge with, and this is kind of the foundation of my 33 Degrees program. You're going to see a lot of threes. The first three is that, personally speaking, addicts and alcoholics, we have no patience. We want it all, we want it all right now. So the first thing we focus on conceptually is patience. The next thing we focus on is self-discipline, because most addicts and alcoholics, generally speaking, we have no self-discipline. And then the third one, the big one, is consistency. So what I focus on when I start working with addicts and alcoholics from the beginning of their journey, which is why right now I work at a wonderful establishment called New Destiny Healing, incredible residential facility. So they have 2 incredible homes. So I'm working with addicts and alcoholics right now with my 33 Degrees program that are newly sober, that have a couple of days, they're right out of detox. So they've gone through that physical withdrawal, and now it's time to start them on their journey. And that's one of the things that I'm able to focus on, with where I work right now, is individual client care, is having the ability where one size does not fit all in recovery. And I think that that's a misstep that a lot of treatment centers make. And I get it by design, right? Treatment centers are cookie cutter.
Sure.
I completely understand that. But recovery is going to look different for everybody. When I got sober, now going on 7.5 years ago, my life, it was a complete destruction. I had burned it all, to the ground. I like to say that my disease, takes away so much from us. But the first thing, Tracy, that my disease took away from me is it took away my dignity. It took away my integrity. It took away the respect that I had for myself. And what I find interesting is, we as addicts and alcoholics, we usually seek treatment because we lose something on the outside, right? Whether it's a job or whether it's, a loved one, we're losing something on the outside. And I think that when we come into recovery, we're focused on getting that outside stuff back. Right. But the way that I look at it, which is one of the foundations of 33 Degrees, is we have to attack the disease the way it attacked us, and that's from the inside out. And I think that gives them the ability, working where I work now at New Destiny Healing, where we work on getting clients to start having faith in themselves, to start building that self-confidence, to start building that self-trust inside. We come in, we lost something. It's usually what brings us in, right? Like I try to get sober so many times. Yes, right? A license, a car, your wife kicks you out, your loved one says we're done, your family members say we're done with you. The court, the law says, hey, you know what? No more of it.
Freedom's gone.
Freedom's gone, right?
Sure.
So that's the catalyst that usually gets us to start on the journey. But to me, if we focus on the negatives, that's not what keeps us sober.
Agreed.
It's like this, right? I'm a big analogy guy, right? So if you had a sports team and you had a great defense, right? If you were an NBA team that had a great defense, you'd do pretty good, right? You'd probably get pretty far. But if you had no offense, how far would you really get? And I think so many treatment centers, generally speaking, focus on the defense. All right, we're going to get you away from the drugs and alcohol, right? Wow. In the beginning, and we're going to build a defense, which is important, of course. Coping skills and, avoiding triggers and cravings and all that great stuff you hear in treatment. But I don't think we focus enough on the offense. Right. And the offense is you starting to believe in yourself again. You starting to truly understand who you are, what makes you unique, what makes you different. One of the numerous reasons that I know I use drugs and alcohol continuously for over 40 years is because I didn't like myself. I was afraid of myself. I never felt like I belonged anywhere. I never felt like I fit in. And what I found in my experiences, not just obviously being on my journey, but working in treatment, is so many addicts and alcoholics have that same sense of not fitting in common. And to me, one of the reasons I use drugs and alcohol again for so long is that discomfort, that feeling of wanting to actually unzip myself and step out of it. And I use drugs and alcohol to cope.
You're running from you.
I'm running from me, and there's nowhere to run to.
Right.
Where are we going to go? And to me, that's a big part of it. Drugs and alcohol, getting away from drugs and alcohol are only the beginning. Drugs and alcohol are not the problem. Drugs and alcohol are the solution to the problem. And that's what I try to do from the beginning. That gives me the opportunity. Let's get inside, let's figure out what's causing you to continuously put something in your body that most people, addicts and alcoholics know, right? This isn't good.
Right.
It's destroying me. It's destroying people that love me. It's destroying the things that are closest to me. So let's start working on that immediately.
Right.
Not after we get out. I think people go to treatment, right? You go in for a month, 2 months, 3 months. That's not enough time to really do the work.
Right. To heal. Right.
It's the beginning. Treatment's needed. Detox, getting into a residential facility, maybe going into, an IOP program, an outpatient program. It's all needed. But to me, that's the beginning of the journey. And I think so many of us put so much energy and resources and money, by the way, we're going to talk about that, into early treatment, but there's not enough aftercare.
Right.
The way that we handle treatment in this country, I believe in my experiences, is they come in, we do 30 days, maybe 60, maybe 90. We get you away from the drugs and alcohol, which of course is needed, right? But there's so much other things going on. Sure. And that's not enough time to get to what's causing someone to continuously do that to themselves on an everyday basis. How do we break the cycle? And that's by creating a routine in the beginning. And that's what I try to focus on when I work with clients is where I work right now at New Destiny Healing, is we're able to do individual client care. So not only do I work with clients in groups, because that's what 33 Degrees is it's programming, it's curriculum. The way that I work with clients is there's not one way to recover, as I said earlier, not one size fits all. So what I do is I try to educate them in all the different recovery programs that are available, whether it's a 12-step program or Smart Recovery or Dharma or Celebrate or Wellbriety. There's an array, luckily, of all these great programs. But I think as far as treatment, once they're done with treatment, normally, and again, I don't speak for all treatment centers, and you know what I'm talking about, we spend all this time and all this energy in treatment, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, guess what? Well, insurance is going to cut you off. Oh, yeah. Well, wait, but are you going to a 12-step meeting? Did you get a sponsor? Oh, did you get into sober living? Okay, good luck.
Right.
And we cut all that connection ties that client may have met or done with in the facility, working with a group facilitator or working with your therapist. We cut those ties.
Sure.
And I think so many of us, man, we land the plane too quickly.
Sure. Well, what's going to happen, and I think that analogy of landing the plane ultimately leads to destruction. So
100%.
You're going to get out of treatment, and I'm almost going to use the word, you got babysat, cared for, and coddled in such a way for that period of time that now you kind of are off the the nipple, so to speak.
No.
And then all of a sudden,
yes.
like one little thing comes at you. I haven't given you the tools to prepare for, like, hey, how do I get to a place? I know a lot of people leave treatment and we say, hey, come back, on Thursday night or, Saturday morning, we're going to have a thing. And then the person goes like, well, how do I get there? Right? Like there's no bus pass or whatever.
They don't have the resources. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? And I love what you just said, because what I believe treatment to be is it's an accountability bubble. It gives clients in early sobriety, people in early sobriety, it gives them a false sense of security.
Right.
And to me, when they get out of treatment, that's when the work should be beginning. That's when the real shit hits the fan.
Sure.
That's when life could throw you a curveball. You get slapped in the face. And as you said, we don't know how to handle it. And I think what happens that I've witnessed so many people is that they say that between 65 to 75% of all addicts and alcoholics that leave a treatment center relapse within the first month of leaving.
Jeez.
So this is going to come into play, which is what 33 Degrees, my recovery coaching program, really stands for. To me, the most difficult times are the first 3 months after leaving the bubble, right? And kind of getting acclimated, kind of, what I call getting your sea legs, right? That's how I kind of look at it, right? Is that for a while, if you've never been on a boat before, right? And you get into a boat and everything's rocky, you're gonna feel nauseous. And that's the emotional rockiness, the emotional, right? When we get out of treatment, all our emotions are coming back. All of our feelings are coming back. We don't know how to live a life in recovery, and we don't have enough time. We haven't seen the results because recovery is a process, right?
Absolutely.
And that's where the patience comes in. So when I'm working with clients before they leave the accountability bubble, before they enter what I call the wild, that's what I call it, right? We're focusing on building patience, consistency, and self-discipline. Now the question becomes, well, how do we do that? It's all about routine. It's routine. It's developing a routine, a foundation within that accountability bubble when people don't have access or aren't triggered by drugs and alcohol. That's when the work has to begin. And what I tell clients all the time, it ain't going to happen when you leave here.
No.
It's not. You know that, right?
Sure.
And there's that, to me, that sense of developing, I can't justify my behavior anymore. Addicts and alcoholics, man, we're the greatest justifiers in the free world. Oh, you got something going on with you, Tracy? Come to me. We'll justify it away, right?
We'll talk you right into that.
We'll talk you right in it. You will leave that horrible situation, that bad decision you made or that action you made with a smile on your face.
Right.
That's one of our defense mechanisms to keep us, I believe, going into a life of destruction in active addiction. That downward spiral is two things: justification and denial.
Right.
Great, right? Suited me for 40 years,
sure.
Right? Oh, either it wasn't me or I'm not doing that. I'm not aware of that, or I know why I did. Let me justify it.
Right.
And that justification can be the pity party, right? The poor me, the victim mentality. What I do with clients, what I do working with addicts and alcoholics in early sobriety is I try to be as honest as I can with them, as authentic as I can with them, but also as assertive as I possibly can with them.
The funny thing is, you hit on an analogy, and that's funny that I can think of so many other areas in my life, and drugs and alcohol aside, and I'm talking to the normal audience. If you were on a sports team or if you were going to the gym, those same tools would be required, because what's going to happen is I'm going to go to the gym, and I'm a guy that, will make a New Year's resolution or whatever. I go to the gym, my arms hurt or I have pain. I don't go to the gym tomorrow.
Correct.
And like things like discipline, or a partner that's going to say to you, hey man, I'm going to go to the gym with you.
Yes, you
right?
need an accountability partner,
Sure.
Especially in early recovery, right? The connection's there, but it's the accountability. That's why when I'm working with clients, one of the things I do within 33 Degrees from the get-go is we start to develop 3 things you do in the morning, 3 things you're going to do in the afternoon, and 3 things you're going to do in the evening time. So what you're doing is you're habit stacking. There's a wonderful book called Atomic Habits. It's one of my favorite books.
I love
by
that
James
book.
Clear.
Dude,
and that's well, and I'll explain a little bit what 33 Degrees means, because I kind of got that from James Clear.
Cool.
But the idea is, how do we develop, right, our mental, spiritual, and physical muscles? How do we self-discipline? Because to me, here's another 3 for 33 Degrees. It's mind, body, spirit. So what I do when I work with people is we start to develop their specific individual, what is your routine going to look like, right? We have to start doing that. That becomes the foundation by practicing self-discipline, right? In our everyday life. And you're right, you don't have to be an addict and an alcoholic to practice this. I'm a very routine guy. My morning routine is airtight. It is ridiculous, some of the stuff that I do. I run between 10, 15 miles a day. I do cold water plunges. I meditate. I do Tai Chi. I journal. I read. I look at inspirational quotes. This is a routine that I've been doing for over 7 years. So what I try to say to people is recovery is a lifestyle. It's not a one and done thing. We don't have the freedom to be a break the glass in case of an emergency recovery life. And I think that's the mistake, Tracy, that so many of us make, right? Is we look at it like that. I lost something. I said this earlier, so I'm going to go get help, right? That doesn't work. To me, if we focus on the negatives and we focus on what's causing us to stop using, that's not how it should work.
Right.
It should work that I'm waking up every day. I'm not thinking about drinking and drugging. I'm not even thinking about, when I work with clients, is the truth, I don't use words like sobriety a lot. I don't. Because to me, right, we're going to share. I can get into my story whenever you want of what brought me on my journey 7 years ago. But to me, it's not about what brought me here. It's what's going to keep me here. That's the key. That's becoming a different version of yourself. That's embracing who we are. That's building self-confidence and sticking to what I call the non-negotiables. That's the routine, right? I get up every morning, 4:30 in the morning. I don't want to get up at 4:30 in the morning.
No.
I'm cold. I don't want to get out of bed. I'm tired. I've had a long day. But by establishing that self-discipline, by continuously doing the same thing over and over again, I'm building a foundation, a structure. So when the storm comes, and we talked about this earlier too, when the storm of life hits you, when something out of my control happens, I have that foundation to hold on to, okay? I'm a big philosopher, right? And I read tons of philosophy. So what I also introduce in my 32 Degrees program is other philosophies. I'm a big Stoicism person. Stoicism philosophy is a big part of my 32 Degrees programming, the ideas, the virtues. Stoicism is a philosophy that was invented thousands of years ago, right?
Old.
And at the basis of that foundation, what it really teaches us is to start focusing on the things we can control and not focusing on the things that we can't. Now, there's this prayer, the Serenity Prayer. Maybe you've heard it before. Just
Very
kidding,
basic.
right? Okay. The Serenity Prayer itself is taken from that same understanding. Grant me the serenity, right, to accept the things. Go ahead.
Can't change.
And
the courage to change the things I can.
And
the wisdom to know the difference.
That is at the foundation of what the understanding is that if I don't let the outside influences persuade me, if I don't let the people, places, or things in life decide whether Eric is good, deciding about how my well-being is good, when my well-being can completely come from Eric. I don't need outside, whatever that is, drugs, alcohol, social media,
gratification,
sex, gratification,
sure.
Food, codependency, right?
Everything.
I have to understand that I have to get to a point in my recovery where none of that stuff is going to change who I am on the inside.
That looks to me like running. You hit on something. I was running from myself, and I think we both have that as part of our journey is like, I'm running from myself every single day. But if I put enough drugs and alcohol in my body, then I'm going to feel okay about myself. this new idea, this new foundation sounds a lot like movement or running towards the new version of yourself.
Correct.
And you can't be dissuaded at some point. Like me and you aren't abstaining from drugs and alcohol. They just don't have a place in our our life. They just don't have a place. If I want to go this direction or do this thing, you know, you have your daughter here on set today, and I have daughters part of my life, and it's like I'm moving towards them. I'm running towards the things that they want to do in their life so that I can be who I want to be. You couldn't distract me with some of like a little drugs or alcohol. No. There's no way you could talk me into that.
That is really, to me, I have lofty goals, as you could probably tell. I'm very passionate, and I don't hide that passion anymore. I used to for a very long time, by the way. I used to be afraid of this.
I don't know that guy, by the way.
I'm glad you don't know that guy. I'm glad most people don't know that guy. Because that guy was living a horrid life because he wasn't living the life that truly was him. And you said this, man. I'm a better father today. I'm a better son today. I'm a better brother today. I'm a better human being today. I'm not running anymore. I did two things very well. And this is the truth, Tracy. I did two things very well in my active addiction. I knew how to run from all my problems. I knew how to run from discomfort. I knew how to run from any type of responsibility. And I knew how to run toward gratification. I knew how to run towards pleasure. And this is the process of recovery. This is the real journey. This is the hero's journey, right? It's changing that perception. And now these days, I can honestly tell you, sit in front of you today, that I no longer run away from my challenges. Obstacles to me are now the way. And I run away from instant gratification. I run away from that instant pleasure. Okay, I'm in here for the long game now. That's what it comes down to. Yes, I'm very blessed. My beautiful daughter is sitting here right now. You know, she's one of my inspirations. When I introduce her, she's my miracle. She truly is. And I'm grateful. You know, I have my son Isaac back in my life. That's my daughter Addison. You know, I am able to show up these days.
Sure.
You know, and you know what I mean by that. Like I'm really, truly, authentically, no matter what's going on, right? I'm able to show up. My goal when I'm working with someone, I have a lot of goals, again, lofty guy, right? Is to make drugs and alcohol irrelevant.
Oh, I love that.
The same thing that literally, and this is a strong word, that some of us were slaves to. This disease had me by the throat and was dragging me through life. That same thing becomes irrelevant.
Wow.
That's powerful, man. That's the power of recovery. That's the power of inspiration. Is the same thing that tried to kill me, that tried to destroy me, that tried to take everything dear and dear to me in my life, no longer has weight over me.
Wow. That's, I mean, I can't get over that. I mean, that will obviously, it's funny. I always think when I'm sitting on the show, like what's going to go viral, right? Like the social media. That's what people are looking for. And they're looking for that freedom.
They are. And that's what I promote. And that's what I get real passionate. I'm sorry if I get emotional, but I can't help it.
I love it.
Because I was hiding all of this. I was suppressing this. I was stuffing all these feelings. I was stuffing trauma. I was stuffing the hatred I had for myself, the fear, the shame, the guilt, the remorse, right? And then you just pour drugs and alcohol over it.
Yeah.
Right?
It'll be fine.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, this is good.
Yeah, fine.
I'm good. I feel okay. But it's okay not to be okay.
Right.
And that's something else that like to become vulnerable, right? You and me are sitting right here. We're having an honest, authentic conversation. This doesn't happen.
No.
This doesn't happen anymore. And I don't blame society for anything. I don't blame society for its norms, but we're living in an instant gratification society. We are. And all that is, to me, that enables people like us. Sure. That enables that sense of I want it all and I want it all now. I said that earlier. So we're not learning patience.
No.
And there's self-discipline. What's that? Oh, and consistency? Right. Come on. How many things have you started, Tracy, in your life?
Oh, hundreds.
How many of those have you finished?
One.
Okay, 1 in 100, right?
Right.
So we're the most inconsistent people. So again, I want to go back to this. So that's one of the foundations of 33 Degrees is to practice that consistency, self-discipline, and patience on an everyday basis. By what? By creating a routine that are non-negotiable, right? And I come up with a routine that's individualized for Tracy, right? Like I'm not going to sit here and say, Tracy, you're going to wake up every day, you're going to do 100 push-ups.
Right.
All right? No, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say to you, how many push-ups, Tracy, can you tell me that you're going to do consistently every day for the next week? Right? And you might look at me because we have, addicts and alcoholics, we're delusional, right? This happens.
I'm gonna do 25.
I'm going to do, okay, no, hold it. No, that's more realistic. So then and I'll say, okay, so you're agreeing to me that you're going to do 25 push-ups, basic thing, right?
Right.
Every day at what time?
I'm gonna do it 8 a.m.
8 a.m. Okay, 8 a.m. All right, so 8 a.m. Where are you going to do the push-ups?
next to my bed.
Next to your bed. Okay, how are you? Do you need to remind yourself to do these push-ups? Do you want a sticky note? Do you want a sticky note next to your bed that says 25 push-ups, 8 a.m.? You see what I'm going? What I'm working with you now is we're working on the process.
I love it.
We have to get out of the results business.
Sure.
That's dangerous for people like us. If I'm obsessed with the results, I'm screwed.
Spend a moment on that. Say that again, because I think that gets missed so much in recovery.
Yeah.
Is that we're focused so much on the result.
Correct.
The process is actually where the healing is.
Well, the process is everything, and this is why. Twofold. I can't control the outcome of the events, right? I try to tell clients in early recovery all the time, right? All a goal is a target. It's something to aim at. That's all it is, right? So if I had my bow and arrow and I had a bullseye and I had a target, right? And you gave me a bunch of arrows, right? Before I got on this journey, I would say, okay, Tracy, what do you want me to do? Oh, you want me to hit that target? All right, give me some arrows, give me my bow, I have my tools. I would aim, try to hit the bullseye, and my arrow not even freaking close.
Right.
Doesn't even hit the target, hits the ground.
Right.
You know what I used to do? Throw the bow and arrow down.
Right.
I'm done. I tried. I gave my best shot. I'm out. That's not how recovery works. Recovery, this is a Rocky quote, is not how many times you get hit, but it's how many times you can get up and keep getting hit. So to me, that's what I try to tell people. We all need goals, right?
Sure.
But if we don't achieve those goals, that's okay. But it gives us something to continually aim at. Give me another bow. Give me another arrow. Let me try this bow. Let me try this arrow. But I know what my target is. My target is to be the best version of Eric I could possibly be. And trust me, man, I don't hit that target every day.
Sure.
I don't hit that target every minute. But you know what I don't do anymore is I don't give up.
That's beautiful.
That's what I don't do anymore.
I think that the listener, or the standard, let's say the standard early recovery person, is missing that part of what we're actually aiming for.
Correct.
Like, it's not about getting that chip. I just got a chip recently, and you look down and it's
a
great.
milestone.
It's a milestone. It's great.
But we're not done.
And it doesn't define my year. So I got another year sober. But what I'm looking at is the moments, the opportunities, the beauty of that, that year that I was granted.
Right. The small wins. It's not to me, I say this is why I will always say recovery is a journey. It's not a race. It's not a sprint. It's not a marathon. There's a beginning, but there's no end.
Right.
There is no end. There's a beginning. You got to take those first steps, right? I can't cure anybody. I can't fix anybody.
Sure.
I'm very, very clear when I'm working with people. No, I'm serious, right? Because we all want that. Help me, save me. I can't do that. But what I can do is I can inspire you. I can guide you. We can work on the process together to develop it to you. It's your recovery, not mine. What worked for me isn't necessarily going to work with you, but I think that's a misconception that so many people in treatment make, is we put addicts and alcoholics in boxes and we say there's only one way to get sober. That is the worst thing I think you can do to an addict and alcoholic, is by pushing us into a corner, right? Putting us in a box. What are we going to do? We're going to run. We're going to get out. That's why so many of us, I believe, relapse. That's because we're put in the situation where we feel trapped. We don't have options. Right? We all have options. What worked for Tracy worked for Tracy. That's great. And I want to hear that. What worked for me, right? But it's about developing your own journey, your own philosophy. And that's at the heart, again, of what I do, is I'm going to give you all the tools I got. Right? I am going to give you what I call the recovery tool belt. We're going to build it together. Sure. I'm going to show you how this hammer works, how this saw works, how this drill bit works, right? And I'm going to keep putting a bunch of tools, recovery tools, on a table for you. I'm going to show you how they work. I'm going to show you what they do. But at the end of the day, it is completely up to you to then pick up those tools, find the one that works for you, put them on your tool belt. Because we need what I call the Batman. I'm a superhero guy. That Batman utility belt, right? The evil is going to come. The evil from here is going to come. What tools am I going to have to defend myself against the disease? But also, what tools am I going to have to start building a life for myself that I no longer want to escape from?
Right, because that's what you're working towards.
That's the whole idea. That's this thing. That's you seeing the results firsthand for yourself. And that's where the 33 degrees name of my recovery program comes from. Is it's from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, where, like, look, I say this to addicts and alcoholics all the time. If I took a huge chunk of ice, like a boulder of ice, and I put it right in front of us right now, big ice boulder, and I said to you, all right, Tracy, you're newly sober, right?
Okay.
So you're uncomfortable, you're emotional, you're freaking out. The world has ended, right? Something brought you in here, and it usually wasn't good. We hear this all the time. No one comes in on a winning streak.
Right, exactly.
Right? You weren't just driving around and looking to a treatment center detox.
That's a great idea.
Oh, check that out. That looks cool, right?
Right.
No, so we come in this fragile, broken, beaten down spiritually, emotionally, physically broken state. So you're in that state. Then I put you in a room you've never been. I pull you out of your life, pull you out of your surroundings, right? And I put an ice cube in front of you. And I said, all right, Chase, this is what I want you to do. All I want you to do right now, you got to trust me. You got to have faith, which you probably don't have at this point. Most of us don't. But I need you to at least just try this, right? I want you to stare at that ice cube until it melts. You're going to look at me like I'm crazy. Hold it. Wow. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to turn the temperature down in the room. I'm going to turn this room down to 28 degrees. 27. You're going to be freezing, right? Now you're cold, you're uncomfortable, and I'm telling you to do nothing but stare at this ice cube till it melts. But what I'm also going to say is, hey, you have to trust me in this. Here we go again. Here comes the faith in early recovery. I'm going to slowly start turning that temperature in the room up. All right. Now you don't know I'm doing it, but I'm telling you I'm doing it. So, but again, all I want you to sit there until the ice cube melts. So now you're sitting there, you're uncomfortable. This is early recovery, sitting in treatment, right? You're pissed off. You want to run. You don't want to be there. And all of a sudden I'm like 29 degrees. And you're like, okay, great. And I'm like 30 degrees. And you're like, I don't see anything, man. What are you talking about? What is going on? I want out of here. This sucks. Then I'm like 31 degrees, and then you stand up. Then you start pacing around. Then I'm like 32 degrees, and you're looking at that ice cube. And then just at the last second, just as you're about to reach for the door, just as you're about to leave, I yell 33 degrees, and you stop for a second, and you see one drop on that ice cube melting. And maybe you take that first real authentic breath, and you stop. And you stop fighting for maybe the first time in your life. You stop fighting who you are. You stop fighting the surroundings, and you see results. And then you sit back down and you go, okay, it's melting. I'm seeing a change within myself. I'm seeing something maybe I didn't believe in, maybe something I never felt before, maybe something I never embraced before, but I see it in front of me. Okay, Eric, what's next? What are we doing next? And that's what 33 degrees stands for. It's the ability to create a program in recovery where you're working with addicts and alcoholics until they feel, experience, taste, and embrace the results. That's what 33 degrees is.
That, by the way, love the passion, love the enthusiasm. I'm a big passion guy, and I love the fact that that little movement is.
That's all it is. It's just a needle, man.
Just a little bit.
See, but this is what happens, I think, to so many of us. We don't see that. We leave, as you heard in the rooms, before the miracle, right?
Sure.
We leave before we see the ice melting. We don't give it long enough. Why? Because we have no patience.
Right.
We have no self-discipline, and we're not consistent.
Right.
So that's why at the foundation is I work and try to find ways to establish that so you stick around long enough. Remember, I said this. Most addicts and alcoholics relapse within the first month of leaving treatment because we don't give it enough time. We don't give it, right? We don't know what it's like to be uncomfortable. One of the other things that I talk about all the time is finding comfort in the discomfort.
Right.
We have to find out, we're early in recovery, according to me, we have to find out the difference between I don't want to do something and I can't. It's a big difference.
Absolutely.
Right? But we need somebody to explain that to us, to point it out to us, to find an accountability partner, because so many times, right, I hear this all the time, oh, I can't do that. Whoa, wait a minute. Yeah, you can. You just don't want to.
Right.
So let's have that discussion, right? Let's not just wave it off and give up, right? Oh, I can't do that. That doesn't work. What works is you admitting to me, maybe for the first time in your life, you know what, Eric? I'm afraid of that. That scares me, right? Not I can't, I don't want to, and there's reasons why. Well, let's have that conversation.
Sure.
Let's you and I connect organically, authenticity.
Right. The best part is that you can find that in so many people. I talk a lot about the power of people in our lives and how I can establish maybe multiple people that are going to have that raw conversation where I want to talk to you about, I'm hurting, I'm in pain.
Yes.
That might not be your sponsor, right? A sponsor's
No,
job is to walk you 12 steps.
100%.
And it might not be the person that I want to sit there and talk to about a feeling or an emotion or a situation in my life.
Agreed.
But having the people around you that you can go to and say something like, hey, my daughter, this, like I'm struggling right now with my family or my wife. And it seems like you've gotten on the other side of that. What's that look like? And for me, that's a tool.
Well, yeah, it's like we're so conditioned by society's norms, especially as men, right? That vulnerability is weakness. Asking for help is weak. And it's the complete opposite to me, right? Admitting to another human being, you know what? I don't got this. You know what? I need help. You know what? I'm not doing good today. That's power. That's courage. To me, weakness is not doing anything about it. I'm sorry.
Right.
It's true.
100%.
And I'm not putting anybody down. But to me, again, being vulnerable, right? Whether it's your sponsor, whether it's somebody else in the program, because I believe that we need each other. Sure. Addicts and alcoholics, this is how it works. It's this organic, real connection. It's two people talking. That to me is what a meeting is. That's why they were developed, right? Sure. But it's also understanding that what I can control, right? There's only two things in this world that I can control: my actions and my words. That's it. I can't control my feelings. I can't control my emotions. I can't control a situation, people, places, things. I used to think I could for a very long time, and that went really well for me. That really worked out well, right? That went real well. But the understanding now is I know that situations are not negative or positive. Situations are what they are. Now, what I make of them, how I react to them, I have the freedom and I have the power to decide whether that's negative or positive. I don't understand that. I'll give you a really, really good example, right? This is just an example in real life. A couple weeks ago, I was on my way to work and I'm driving in traffic. I get onto the 101 here and it's a parking lot. My initial reaction is, come on.
Not
right?
today.
Not today, right? So my initial reaction with my feeling, my emotion, which I can't control, is negativity, right? Now, the old version of Eric would have probably sat in the car and banged his hand on the wheel and start cursing everyone out on the road, stayed angry, leaned into that negative energy, right? The whole time I'm stuck in traffic, which I can't control, had nothing to do with me, right? But yet, here I am trying to control it, trying to get, changing lanes 20 times, right? Yeah, how did that go, right? To move an inch. But all that negative energy is going on. Then I would have gotten to work, and guess what? I still would have been angry. And then what I would have done probably is walked into work and told everyone, I was just in traffic, and look at this.
Look how bad my day is.
Poor me, victim card, right? This is the mentality. And that's all complaining is, by the way. This is what I tell people all the time. All complaining is I just want you to validate my victim card. I need you to say to me, Eric, poor you. Oh, pity party, you were stuck in freaking traffic. Now, to explain how the process of recovery works, the new version of Eric, I didn't do that. The new version of Eric took a breath, took a second, and said, okay, I'm stuck in traffic. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put on some really good music. My daughter and I, we share playlists on Spotify all the time. We make each other mixtapes, right? So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put on that new tape that my daughter Addison, look how old I am, the new mix, right? That my daughter made for me, right? That's going to put me in a good mood. Then I did that. The next thing I did, these are coping skills. The next thing is I'm like, you know what? It's early. I'm sitting in traffic. Haven't spoken to my dad in a while. My dad's up early. I bet you my dad would love a phone call from me. So I took the opportunity to call my dad. Guess what? My dad picked up the phone. He was happy to hear from me. We bullshitted. We chatted it up. I talked to my dad for a good 20 minutes. You know what happened, Tracy? The next thing I knew, I'm at work. Now, how do you think my mood was walking into work at that time?
Full of everything,
gratefulness,
full of gratefulness,
happiness, joy, whatever it is. But once again, traffic, being stuck in traffic. This has nothing to do. Did I mention sobriety yet, by the way? Okay. But the idea is I chose the negative handle. I chose the smooth handle, not the rough handle. So situations are situations, and this is what I talk to clients about all the time in 32 Degrees, is you have the power to react negatively or to react positively and to let it go.
Yeah.
That's
to truly let it go.
To truly let it go. All right, traffic. Okay, big freaking deal. You're stuck in traffic, out of my hands. I can either get negative about it, let that define me, let that control me, because there's a comfort in that, right? There's a comfort in living that anger and that negativity. Or very simply, it sounds simple, but it's not because it takes a lot of practice, is to let it go and then focus on the positive.
Right.
We all have that
I was gonna
choice.
say, we have that choice. Everybody does.
But getting away from drugs and alcohol enables me that choice.
Right.
When I'm a slave, when I am literally being drugged around by alcohol and drugs, that choice isn't there. It's non-existent. I don't have a choice.
Right.
It's gone. So that's what I do with clients is it's about the philosophy of life. And that's why I'll introduce all these different types of philosophies. I love the philosophy of Bruce Lee, another one of my mentors, another one of my heroes. Stoicism plays a big part into what I talk about. James Clear's Atomic Habits. There's an incredible book by Joseph Campbell called A Hero of a Thousand Faces, which is something else I teach on, which is the hero's journey. And that to me is what recovery is. And Yumi started this discussion by talking about the stigma that society has against people like us.
Sure.
So one of my advocation jobs is I want to educate the public to say, hey, look, right? Yes, some really horrible stuff happened to this person, right? We love a car crash, right? Society. No, I'm serious.
Sure.
You know, right?
Rubberneck.
We love a car crash. We love to see what
destruction,
which is unfortunately what happens to a lot of addicts and alcoholics when they suffer. It's a disease from substance use disorder. So, but nobody talks about the recovery.
Right.
Nobody talks about what happens after the accident. What happens after the car crash? What's the strength, the courage, the hero's journey to really face odds, to look the odds in the face. One of my favorite quotes, and I'm a quote guy, right? I need inspiration on a daily basis. That's where my passion comes from. This isn't me, by the way. This comes from other people. But Bruce Lee's quote where he says, you can either use life's obstacles as stumbling blocks or stepping stones. Focus on the positive. We are the master of our attitude. And that's really what's recovery. So when I'm teaching clients in early sobriety on 33 Degrees, I give them all these tools. We'll talk about Bruce Lee's philosophy. We'll talk about stoicism. We'll talk about a hero's journey. We'll talk about establishing a routine with atomic habits. All right. They will talk about all this stuff. And then what I always say, use what works for you. Disregard what doesn't. I'll introduce 12-step programs to you. Pick an A. We'll talk about all the A's. I know you're a big Recovery Anonymous guy, which I think is a wonderful program. I wish we could talk about that for a while. But the 12 steps are a great program. The 12 steps saved my life. But truthfully, the 12 steps are not the end-all, end-all. If the 12 steps worked for you, fantastic. But here's where this makes me a little unique. If they don't work for you, that's okay.
Absolutely.
But let's find out what does. Let's educate you on what tools you need. What recovery community are you going to continually connect with when you get out of this accountability bulb that we talked about? Sure. That's what's missing. And I think that's what makes my program very different and unique, is that we focus on all aspects of recovery. That's what 33 Degrees is. But whatever it takes to withstand the client themselves until they see the results.
Right.
Now, I don't know what kind of house you want to build after recovery. We all have different wants and needs. Sure. And I'm never going to tell you what house to build. But you know what I will do with you? We'll find the tools you need to build that house, and we'll establish the structure and the foundation that you'll need to build that. Absolutely. And that, to me, is really at what the heart of recovery is, right? Is learning that, hey, I can control this, I can't control that, but I'm going to focus my energy on the good things in life. My family, my well-being, my spirituality, you know? I mean, I consider all the time, and when we go out and we listen to other accidental alcoholics and they talk so much about all the miracles. To me, it's the little things. When I got sober, I thought this burning bush moment was going to happen. All these things were going to magically appear, and I was going to get this back, and I was going to get that back. In my experiences, it's not about that. It's the little things, It's having the freedom to just take a drive with my daughter on the way to the studio today and listen to music that we were sharing, and have her share to me about what's going on in her life, because I'm present these days. I'm present to have conversation with my father, who's been such a supporter of everything I've been through, to have conversations with my brother, real conversations. I mean, Tracy, I used to be the guy that nobody called. Right? Over 7 years ago, you know what I mean? Right. Oh, Eric's coming over? Whoa, let's
put everything away.
We don't want him here, Sure. I used to be that guy. I used to be the guy that people wrote off. I used to be the guy that everyone just kind of was like, you know who I am today? Because of the work I've done, because of the recovery that I've found, that I've been blessed and grateful to find, is now when people are struggling, I'm the first one they call. When family members, when close ones are going through something difficult and they need to talk to someone that maybe isn't going to judge them, right? That isn't going to point fingers at them, that's not going to talk down to them, that's going to give them a real, honest, authentic suggestion, they come to me. Wow. Like words aren't going to articulate what that feels like.
That's the best feeling in the world.
It's the greatest feeling in the world, man. But that feeling is coming from within.
Yeah.
Right? That's the feeling, Tracy, that we now, because of the journeys that we've both taken, we're able to do that on our own accord. Right. I don't need any kind of outside stimulant, whether it's drugs, alcohol, again, food, sex, gambling, social media, instant gratification from an Amazon box at my door, by the way. That's a whole different day. But like, I don't need that anymore. Right? Everything I'm doing, I'm creating that happiness and that joy from within. And then people gravitate towards that.
Sure.
People want that. Sure. What I tell clients all the time, find somebody that has something you want and go get it.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of threes in my world, the 33 degrees. Another three, something, and I know I'm not a big, acronym guy, but when I do use them, they're important. But it's something that I call the triple A's. Because the triple A's are this: awareness, acceptance, action. Awareness, acceptance, action. If you take that and plug it into anything, you're going to have a positive outcome. And I'll explain. You got to have awareness. I know what it's like to not have awareness, to be stuck in denial, to not admit to something, to just be completely unaware of it. So before we can tackle any obstacle, we must become aware. That's number one. Number two, now you got to accept it. Yeah. And that's a bitch.
Yeah. Nobody wants to do that.
Nobody. I didn't want to accept that I was an alcoholic and an addict for a very long time. Of course, I didn't want to accept it. And then, of course, the one that's continuous, one of my favorite words in the English language. Here comes the big one. Then we got to take action. So it's awareness, acceptance, and action in that order. If you don't start having awareness, if you can't accept a situation or whatever's going on, a feeling, an emotion, right? And then this is it. Got to get up. We got to take action. We got to get in the game, man. That's what it comes down to. But we have to build what I also call a recovery army of support for us. So what happens so many times also, man, to me is that, like, when you're in treatment, you're with other people that are early sober, right? Sure. And by design, right? Like, you're stuck with these people, like it or not, right? So hopefully, and I say hopefully, you start to connect early with these people, because you're usually in groups with them, right? And most treatment centers have groups, which is what I do. So you're in groups, you're in, a process group. Now you start connecting with them. You start hopefully allowing people in. And then you start hopefully allowing people, whether it's not just in treatments, but you go to a 12-step meeting or a smart recovery meeting or a Dharma recovery, all these meetings, sobriety, Dharma. And then you start finding people that are holding you accountable. What I tell people, what are you doing? You have to start building your recovery army.
Right.
And this thing is powerful. Right. This disease that comes to us in our own voice, right? We can't tackle alone. That'd be like facing the most adverse enemy we've ever faced by ourselves. Right. And that enemy has a track record of taking us out every time. Victor. No, but that's the insanity of the disease of, addiction, right? Is that we keep getting back in the ring with this thing. Oh, this fight's going to be different. Right. Well, dude, you've been knocked out 30 times in a row. Right. What have you done differently in your training? Nothing. Who's in your corner in the ring? No one. And that's what about building a recovery army is. But how are we going to build an army? Where are we going to be recruiting for this army? That's why a recovery program is so important. It doesn't matter this is what I teach, what the program is, but how are you going to find other like-minded people? How are you going to build that army? And that army cannot consist of newbies. So when you're in treatment, like I said earlier, with people in early sobriety, those are like new recruits. That'd be like you going to basic training to get into the army. Then you go to battle, and it's you and all the people that were in basic training. There's no journals. There's no generals. There's no colonels. No one's leading you. Right. You need to find people like us that maybe have some time against this thing. That's all it is. Right? Those are the people you need to surround yourself with. But so many of us don't do that because we get out of treatment. We get that false sense of security when we leave the bubble. We have no routine. We haven't tried any of these amazing tools. And then we relapse within the first month of leaving. And we start that horrendous, nasty, dark cycle again. That's why there's so many aspects of what a recovery should look like, but we need the defense and the offense. The defense is your recovery army. You know, I'm Mr. Analogy, guys. You can probably tell, and that's
I love it.
That's just how my mind works. But like sports analogy, it'd be like if I said to you, Tracy, you're in the NBA Finals. You are about to face one of the most dominant basketball teams you've ever faced, right? You have a couple of months before you're going to face this nasty opponent, meaning the disease of addiction.
Sure.
So what I'm going to do is you're going to come with me, and we're going to train you for you to be the best basketball player that you can be. But on top of that, you also got to recruit other people to be on your team.
Right.
You need to find some freaking rock stars. You need to find some Michael Jordan, some LeBron James, some Larry Birds on your team. Well, how are you going to find these people? You're going to go to meetings. I'm going to take you around with me, and we're going to go recruit some rock stars in recovery. And those are the people. Now comes a reality that you're going to have to walk into, get out of your comfort zone, put your hand out and say, hey, my name's Eric. Can I have your phone number? Wow. Do you mind if I call you?
Right.
Dude, you know how difficult that is for addicts and alcoholics?
Near impossible.
Near impossible.
Yeah.
We have our social anxiety is something that's so strong within us that just doing something as basic as that is very struggling because A, we're uncomfortable around other people usually. And we don't have the lubricant of alcohol and drugs anymore.
Sure.
So that makes it more difficult. But our life depends on making these connections. And we expect addicts and alcoholics, we just expect them to do that after treatment. Oh, you're going to go to these meetings. Oh, you're going to meet people. You're going to find this sponsor. You're going to find this mentor. That's unrealistic.
Right.
You know, I started working in treatment a couple of years ago. Okay. And let's just say that it was a learning experience.
Sure.
Okay. And I became very frustrated with what I was seeing. Now, not only I'd been to many treatment centers, obviously suffering from addiction. Now I'm on the other side. So now I'm working in treatment. And I started to realize very frustrated that there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that work in treatment that don't care. They don't have the morals that I think you and I do, right? And I started seeing all these clients that would go through treatment and they'd be right back a couple of weeks later. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's missing? What's the component that's not missing? I became very frustrated, and I was sitting with my father, one of the most important people in my life, somebody that is one of the smartest men I know. And I was ranting and raving, shockingly, right? And I'm ranting. I'm like, Dad, I had this treatment. It's broken. It's not working. And, you know, these people keep coming back, and our numbers are through the roof, and something needs to change, blah, blah, blah. My dad's let me go. He's let me rant, which he's used to. He finally, very quietly stops me when I'm finally down a little bit. He's like, Eric, he's like, wait a minute. He's like, I've known you my whole life. You always claim to be this outside the box thinker, right? My son, outside the box. I have a creative mind. I do. He goes, I have an idea for you. He's like, instead of thinking as an outside the box thinker, why don't you try this? Why don't you try emptying out the box and putting something new in it?
Wow.
And that was the catalyst to 33 degrees.
Wow.
That was the beginning. That was the spark of saying, wait a minute. Enough of this, blah, 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 right? It's action. I got to change something. And that's what I've been trying to do for the last 2 years, man. And it's difficult. People don't want me. People don't want me in treatment. Think about this, and I don't mind saying this because we're are talking here. But treatment, the idea of treatment, it's one of the only businesses truly in the world that you don't have to have successful results to succeed.
Right. Right.
No, I'm just
we're relying on somebody going back out and taking another shot.
It's the greatest business model, right? If I opened up a restaurant tomorrow, I was in hospitality for a very long time. That's a different day. I worked in the liquor business also, by the way. But in hospitality, what do you want if you open a restaurant? You want repeat business. You want repeat customers. Treatment's perfect for that.
Sure.
Remember what I said? Most clients relapse within the first month of leaving treatment. So that business is coming in. Now, again, please, I want to be very clear. I'm not talking about all treatment centers. I would never do that. I'm working in this incredible treatment center for a reason. New Destiny Healing is amazing. But if your morals weren't on, and I'm sorry to say, right?
Sure.
That's a great business model.
Right.
What's in it for me to be successful as a business? Nothing.
You're a failure.
You're a failure.
Yeah.
No, well, and you can hide behind the idea of relapse.
Right.
So if it's perfect. Oh, wait. So Eric, 5 of your clients that just went through your incredible treatment program, we're noticing that they're coming back a couple of weeks. Well, that wasn't me. I guess they weren't ready.
Right. Right. They fail. If we have a 5% success rate.
Yeah. We didn't fail them. They failed themselves.
Yeah.
Tracy,
did.
that's not enough.
No.
Fentanyl is a weapon of mass destruction.
Sure.
Mass destruction. And I can say this to you, you and I just lost a very good friend over this weapon of mass destruction, who I miss dearly, by the way. And the drugs are cheaper. They're more readily available. They're stronger. They're more deadlier than we've ever seen. But what are we doing different in treatment?
Not much.
Not much.
Right.
You know what? That's not good enough for me. That's not, and it shouldn't be good enough for anybody. But these discussions aren't being had. And that's all it is. I'm not saying that's how change happens.
Sure.
Change is about education and having these types of discussions. This has to happen. We have to look at what we're doing in this country for treatment, and we need to figure something else out. Our numbers are off the chain right now. They are through the roof. People talk about all these other numbers, COVID hits. No. I'm not going to get into statistics now. I know you know this, right? People are dying every single day from this disease. We're not doing enough, and we need to do better. We need to have these discussions. We need to educate. We need to talk to the insurance companies. We need to talk to the lawmakers. Somebody has to make a change. I've devoted my life to it. And I believe that we need to keep having these conversations. We need to keep asking ourselves, what's missing? What can we do differently? How can we shake it up? We spend, I think, too much money and too much resources in early recovery as far as treatment in this country, and not enough for after.
Agreed.
And something's got to change, man. What is it going to take? Seriously, and I don't, and this is positive, but what is it going to take for people to start realizing this, to start making changes, to start understanding that the opposite of addiction is connection? What purpose are we going to come up with? It's purpose and connection. There's a lot of, obviously, components, right?
Sure.
But when are we going to change that? When addicts and alcoholics get into treatment, they see a therapist once a week for an hour, generally speaking. That's what?
Right.
I don't know about you, man. I've got problems, man. I've got issues, right?
Right.
That's not enough time to us. That's not enough time for anybody, right? But then when addicts and alcoholics get out of treatment, here we go again. Oh, are you going to go to one of these meetings? Oh, did you get into a sober living, which I know you're also involved with? And here we can go again. I'm sorry, but most of these sober livings, come on, Tracy, really?
Yeah.
Come on.
It's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing. And it's embarrassing. And insurance companies, most of them aren't paying for it.
Right.
So we're expecting all these high expectations. Oh, this, so-and-so did 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, right? They're good. No, they're not. No, they're not. They've been given an opportunity. Detox is needed. Treatment center is needed, okay? But there's so much more than that. And that's really where my program comes into play, is it's creating more of a longer term, not 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, but additional 33, another 3 months. Because if we can build a foundation, right, as that plane's landing slowly, the wheels come down, right? We're not in a rush. We're not to go back to our old ways, our old habits, our old using friends, our old using lifestyle, right? As long as we're putting recovery first and we have that bridge of support and accountability as a foundation with the routine that we're creating, we have a better chance. And that's all it is, man. I said earlier, I can't cure anyone. I can't save anybody.
Correct.
None of us can. But damn well right, I'm not going to stop by doing everything in my power to give the person that's suffering all the tools they need necessary to go live an incredible life of recovery. As James Campbell calls it, a hero's journey. Because that's what recovery is at the end of it. But if we don't start believing that recovery is positive, if we have this negative annotation about it, then why would I believe why would I believe I deserve a better life? And that's why so many of us, I think, never find treatment, never are as lucky as we are to find treatment or find the recovery program or the fellowship that we have right now, because we just don't believe that we deserve a better life.
Well, I'm here to tell you a couple things, and putting a bow on today's episode is to tell you first, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
But thank you for what you're doing in the community, not just for the people that you have maybe your hands on, but the places you're going and speaking that you don't even know, the lives that you're touching. And I can tell you for firsthand, I appreciate you. I'm glad that you have been part of our story and continue to do what you do. And for our audience, I want to say to you, today can be the day that you become the hero of your own story. I'm going to encourage you to watch back this episode. I rarely say that, but there is a lot that Eric shared with us today that can become a tool and an asset in your journey. Take the time to watch it back, find 33 Degrees online, and be sure to tune into our next episode where you can take the next step in becoming the hero of your story.
I hope you heard something today that gets you to take one small step into the version of the person that you want to be. For more content like this, subscribe to our channel below, or you can go on letsgorecovery.org. Until next time,